Woman gave birth to an egg baby, and the father got so mad he kicked a huge rock to pieces. His selfishness had led him to sacrifice the unborn child to demons to gain ultimate power, which allowed him to wipe out the demon race and establish his own kingdom. The child grew up deaf and mute, only as big as his father's finger. Although Jack was a prince, everyone mocked him like a fool, and when he was robbed by a monster, he couldn't even call for help. The monster took Jack's valuables and even his clothes, then told him to wear something even fancier next time, and Jack just nodded and agreed. The next day, the monster was already waiting for him but was surprised when Jack arrived with a group of soldiers behind him. The monster started sweating, but then he woke up. It was just Jack in fancier clothes, with no soldiers in sight. Despite being robbed, Jack looked unusually happy because everyone ignored him and didn't want to talk to him. Jack treated the robber like a friend and even promised to wear more expensive clothes next time. On the third day, Jack showed up again, and when he saw the monster, Tom, he looked even happier. This time, Tom realized the fool was actually the prince. Jack was determined to be a great king, but Tom laughed, saying there was no way a deaf and mute person could become a king. When Jack headed back, Tom quietly followed him. In town, people mocked Jack again. This was the third time he'd been robbed, and even kids dared to bully him. Tom felt sorry for such a weak prince, and eventually, Jack just ran off, red-faced. Back at the castle, Jack's stepmother saw he'd been robbed again and scolded him, saying he was a disgrace to the royal family and didn't deserve to be king, claiming her son was 100 times better. Tom felt sorry for Jack, realizing no one liked him. When Jack was changing clothes, a tear fell. Jack wasn't a fool. He'd just been holding back all the insults because he was the eldest prince. But Jack quickly wiped away his tears and put on a smile. He didn't want his father to see him sad, but the Persian king was gravely ill and hoped Jack would grow up soon to inherit the throne. The king loved Jack deeply but felt sorry for his tiny son, no bigger than his finger. Without Jack's sacrifice, the kingdom wouldn't exist. He worried that after his death, Jack would be bullied, so he hired the nation's strongest swordmaster, Thomas, to train Jack strictly. But when Thomas saw how weak Jack was, he kept shaking his head. Suddenly, the second prince, John, appeared and mocked Jack, asking if he could even kill an ant. Then he challenged Thomas. When John grabbed a stick, his entire body radiated intense pressure, like the Persian king, with an incredible level of strength and speed far beyond Jack's. Seeing this, Thomas smiled, realizing John was the kind of student he wanted. Thomas tested John's swordsmanship, and even Jack admired his brother's skill. In the end, Thomas defeated John, who was furious as it was his first loss. Thomas reassured him that his skills were already impressive and vowed to pass down his swordsmanship to John. Seeing his teacher's expression, Jack felt sad and picked up a wooden sword, aiming it at John to prove himself. News of their duel spread through the palace, but John's mother scoffed, saying there was no need for the match as her son would surely win. Thomas knew Jack was no match, and everyone else thought the result was obvious, expecting Jack to just get beaten. Four officers came to watch the duel. John gripped his wooden sword and swung at Jack, but Jack dodged at the last second. This small move revealed Jack's hidden talent, and no matter how John attacked, he couldn't hit Jack. The spectators were stunned. Despite being small and weak, Jack could dodge every attack. A soldier recalled seeing Jack avoid every attack in a snake pit and calmly leave. John was now furious, and Jack seized the moment to knock John on the head with his stick. It didn't hurt much but was incredibly humiliating, leaving everyone in disbelief.